Local 15 weather with Chief Meteorologist Derek Beasley.
I was outside for about 45 seconds and had to get to some air conditioning.
Man, you warned us it was coming, and boy, oh boy, you weren't kidding, were you?
It doesn't take long to start cooking
No,
out there.
no, it really
Not
doesn't.
at all.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse here for Friday into the weekend. The good news about this is not going to last longer than about 5 days or so before we start to get back to typical heat here across the area. But this is the hottest we've been all summer. Certainly nothing, it's not that we haven't seen this before. It's the fact that this is the first time this year that we've seen temperatures this hot. So something you want to keep in mind if you got to be outside for an extended period of time. Live pinpoint Doppler tracking a couple of isolated storms, and these have just been popping up across the area. They may last about a half hour and then they dissipate here pretty quickly. But you can see this one is spitting out some pretty decent lightning strikes there for a while. Now it does appear that it is starting to dissipate, and besides that, it looks like things are relatively quiet across the area. Now we're tracking a couple of more isolated storms in and around Highway 43 and Highway 84 up into Clark and Monroe County, but really not much else going on. Things are relatively quiet. Now Alan Chastain just took a picture of this cumulonimbus cloud. This is the storm that we just showed you out west of Dawes, and you can see the anvil top on it. It hits that warm layer in the very high part of the atmosphere, and it starts to spread out, and call that the thunderhead or the anvil. But a pretty decent storm there that is kind of typical for this time of year. Whenever it gets this hot and this humid, you can expect storms to just pop up randomly like that. 96 right now in Evergreen. It feels like 105 in Mobile. Evergreen, 104 in Crestview. So that's what we're going to be dealing with. Temperatures falling back into the 70s here. Skies mostly clear. We're going to do it all over again for tomorrow. High pressure in the upper atmosphere is really what's cooking us right now. And this pattern is not going to be changing here through the weekend. Notice how everything is just basically red here right in the middle part of the country, right under the center of that high. And notice that it kind of migrates northward a little bit, but it pretty much stays in the same spot. At least this weather pattern does through Saturday. So don't expect any kind of cool down until next week. That's when it looks like this high will start weakening, and then it will push back off to the west and get us back to more of a typical summertime pattern here across the area. But here's a look at the forecast for heat index here for tomorrow. And again, this is going to be kind of, really you just can't look at these numbers and just say specifically it's going to be 104 in Bruton. It very well could be even more than that, but you get the idea. Between 100 and 110 here for tomorrow afternoon. And the same thing again on Saturday. Heat indices between 100 to 105, maybe some areas getting up close to 110. So don't take it for face value, but it just kind of gives you a general idea of the heat and humidity that you can expect here for the next 3 days. Of course, we've been watching this out here, and it's still relatively disorganized. The hurricane hunters went out there this afternoon, found a loose circulation, really nothing to be concerned about. And at this point, we're not concerned about it getting into the Gulf. So regardless of what you're reading on the internet, regardless of what you're hearing, there is nothing that I'm seeing that indicates that this thing is going to make a track into the Gulf. We'll continue watching it, but the computer models have been trending north and east with the eventual track of this, regardless of what it does. So at this point, not concerned about it being a U.S. threat, but we'll keep our eye on it nonetheless. Here's your 7-day forecast. And just plain old hot here across the area. Highs well in the 90s, lows in the 70s. But it will feel like 100 to 110 each afternoon. Now next week, as I mentioned earlier, the high pressure area will weaken and shift westward, and that will allow the heat to back off a little bit. So instead of mid to upper 90s, we're talking right around 90, and that will also allow for a little better storm chances across the area. Chances for rain through the weekend about like what we're seeing right now, less than 20%. So if you do see a storm, you'll be one of the few that will actually see rain here across our area. So not unprecedented heat, but the hottest has been all summer, so you got to be careful.
And it is dangerous. You have to just be careful when you go out.
It is. You know, it doesn't take that long. A lot of strenuous activity, you can cause you some problems.
Yeah, all right, Derek, thanks. Say hello to